Yes. It's Daybreak. Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to the show here on Trust TV, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Nigerians, and thank you for joining us this morning again. My name is Stella Iyaji.
Yes. Stella.
Good morning, Ayuba.
Good morning. And the cash crunch is still something that we're battling with, despite the statements that we've seen from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Is it too early to expect any changes?
Yesterday I saw that a lot of people were besieging the banks, and then some people had good stories to tell that they were able to get some money, albeit not too much. But then again, we're seeing stories where we're hearing that the CBN is yet to release the old notes to the banks. Some persons may say it's too early, but considering the problem that has lingered for so long,
and the desperation,
really,
because Nigerians are,
and the lamentation, I expected that the CBN should have started disbursing the money by yesterday.
Well, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how today turns out. We have few days to the governorship and State House of Assembly elections, talking about 3 days now. And I hope that we'll have the cash available before.
But does it look as if the excitement that heralded the presidential, I don't see it. Or is it because we're in the Federal Capital Territory where elections are not going to hold on Saturday?
That could be
maybe
one
the excitement is in the states.
That could be one of the reasons, and also it's subnational politics. It's mainly local. So for people in Abuja,
and actually more important, more people are interested.
It is. And that's the election that usually have direct impact
on the people.
Yeah, so perhaps those are some of the reasons.
There are some people in Nigeria that's the highest authority they ever have to see or have anything to do with.
Yes, I agree. Well, let's take a look at some of the headlines today, this morning. Police declare Bauchi rep wanted over murder.
12.9 million cyber attacks recorded during last elections, federal government.
Foreign airlines trapped funds, now $743 million. That's according to IATA.
Now let's take a look at the details. The Force Headquarters of the Nigeria Police Force has declared the current member of the House of Representatives representing Bauchi Federal Constituency, Honorable Yakub Shehu Abdullahi, wanted. Abdullahi was declared wanted for alleged criminal conspiracy, causing grievous hurt, disturbance of public peace, and culpable homicide. The police further announced a 1 million naira reward for anyone with useful information that could lead to the arrest of the 45-year-old lawmaker. The bulletin, which has the picture and the address of the lawmaker on it, was from the State Criminal Investigation Department of the Bauchi State Police Command, issued by the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba. The bulletin was made available to journalists on Tuesday by the Police Public Relations Officer in the state, SP Ahmed Wakil.
Now, the federal government has said that a total of 12.98 million attacks were recorded during the February 25 presidential and National Assembly elections period in Nigeria. Originated from both within and outside Nigeria, the attacks were made on public websites and portals and averaged around 1.5 million daily, the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Isa Ali Pantami, said in a statement on Tuesday. However, Pantami said that the attacks skyrocketed to 6.10 million on presidential election day. He said a committee set up by his ministry to curtail the activities of cyber criminals during the elections started work on February 24, 2023 and ended work on February 28. Now, Pantami said in the run-up to the 2023 general elections, threat intelligence revealed an astronomical increase in cyber threats to Nigerian cyberspace.
As Nigeria's forex crisis deepens, repatriated funds of foreign airlines have peaked to $743.7 million from $662 million in January 2023. The International Air Transport Association disclosed this in a letter addressed to the Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika, signed by the Area Manager West and Central Africa, Dr. Samson Fatokun. In the letter, IATA called on the minister to intervene so that the foreign airlines can repatriate their funds.
Now, let's take a look at some of the packages we have this morning. Traders in Kano say that businesses are gradually picking up since the presidential note and the central bank directive to banks on legal status of the old Naira notes. Trust TV correspondent Idris Jibrin reports that although customers are still using point of sale to pay for transactions, the old 500 and 1,000 Naira notes are now being accepted by traders. Take a look.
Across many parts of the commercial city of Kano, majority of traders say they have now resumed to collecting the old Naira notes following the CBN announcement. But some say the cash is not available in the market. We have heard the news on the radio, but you see there is still no cash in the market. People are yet to start bringing out their money, but when people started bringing it out, we will collect. According to traders in some market of Kano metropolis, most people are still not aware that CBN has directed the use of the old 500 and 1,000 Naira note, which is why some customers and traders alike are yet to start accepting it. Whatever the CBN governor says is like the president, because he can't do it without the approval of the president. But you see, some people are still not accepting it. But we here in the market, if they bring the money to us, we will collect. Even now, I have accepted 10,000 Naira old note. And anyone that bring it to me, I will collect it. Although people are still trooping across all commercial banks in Kano to get cash, but traders say less than 24 hours since the announcement, businesses are fast picking up in Kano, and that many people have complied to accepting the old notes. Truly, because of this announcement, we have started collecting the old Naira notes, and businesses are picking up. And even those who are bringing goods to us from the village, once we call them, they will bring it because they know that there is cash now. We will just give them. So gradually, things are picking up here with us. Even now, I want to buy ingredients to take to my house, and I'm going to give them the old Naira note. So people are accepting it now. At the moment, cash is still scarce in circulation, but most people believe that with the latest development, things will improve in the next coming days. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Thank you, Idris, for that report. Still on the Naira. The directive of the CBN to commercial banks recognizing the old Naira note as legal tender has elicited joy among residents of the Federal Capital Territory. Trust TV's Kabir Lawa reports that the long silence of the Apex Bank since the Supreme Court order on March 3rd left residents of the Federal Capital Territory confused. Let's take the report.
Central Bank of Nigeria in a statement on Monday recognized the use of the old 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes as a legal tender till 31st December this year. It is a sigh of relief for many bank customers who find it hard to access their hard-earned deposits in the bank owing to the CBN's Naira redesign and cashless policy. Some bank customers said they are happy with the development, but government should avoid the kind of confusion their silence must have caused.
It's a good policy, but unfortunately it came late because people have suffered a lot. You know, you could hear people dying while going to get currency, while going to get cash, either at the ATM or the banking hall. It's quite unfortunate that despite the fact that many Nigerians, many we in Nigerians have gone against this policy, and that CBN and with the Supreme Court decision almost close to a week plus now, and just yesterday CBN governor is coming out to tell the public that they can continue using the old currency.
Baba, I never collect, I never even see this money safe. I still reason and I still reason them, but because why I still reason and be say, you know, say before if God talk, we go wait for president. Now president never talk, but CBN don't talk. Sure, but I still reason if now be the cocoa.
Some said that the people really suffered from the cashless policy implementation, adding that many were subjected to unnecessary hardship.
According to what I hear yesterday, they say CBN say make we use the old Naira notes. And for the direction where we see where the thing they go, the thing no make sense. That means Nigeria know they move forward. Why it no make sense to me be say, I think say they have plan for in the initial stage of introducing the new currency. But now coming in direction of stopping the old currency, bringing the new currency to come in existence. Unfortunately, yesterday night they said we should go back to the old currency. That means I don't see the government, whether the government have any good direction.
They are taking us back. Since they have already taken it out, let it remain out. The way forward is just to make sure that the new currency is being printed out more so that it will just circulate. I didn't succeed with getting money because everywhere they locked the gate and they are saying they are giving old currency, but yet there was no money. And I've been there for over 2 hours, so there's no need. I have to go back.
The Supreme Court had on March 3rd ordered that the old Naira note remain legal tender till December 31st.
Despite the Central Bank of Nigerian directive to make the old currency a legal tender in the country, people are finding it very difficult, especially at the ATM machines, and they complain to us that the machine is not dispensing the new or the old currency, making life difficult for them. In Abuja, Kabir Lawal, Trust TV News.
All right, now police in Katsina have apprehended a notorious bandit, Suleiman Ibrahim, a member of the Dankarami terrorist camp in Urugu Forest. The arrested terrorist kingpin confessed to have killed over 15 people in the 3 years he operated as a bandit. Abdullahi Amadi has more on this.
The police operatives from Duzima Area Command apprehended the terrorist during an operation in Duzima, Bazari, Safana, and Damusa local government areas.
This suspect that you are seeing here with me, by name Suleiman Ilyasu, alias Erbusha, is 28 years old and he's from a village called Asaurara, Sabor Ungwa, Walawa, Jibia local government area of Katsina State. He's a member of a notorious syndicate of terrorist bandits, particularly under the camp of one Dankaremi. Dankaremi has been on the wanted list of the Nigeria police for committing crimes against humanity in Katsina, Zamfara, Kaduna, Kebbi, and Sokoto states. He confessed to have killed more than 15 persons in several attacks in various local government areas of the state.
The suspected terrorist also confessed to have masterminded several attacks which led to killings, abductions, and rustling of thousands of domestic animals across the flashpoint local government areas. He also confessed to have participated in numerous attacks on various communities in both Katsina and Zamfara states, leading to killings and destruction of properties worth hundreds of millions of naira. Look, I know I masterminded several attacks and participated in many others within the 3 years I served in Dankarami terrorist camp. But that does not mean the police cannot temper justice with mercy. I was in the terrorist camp as a result of some conditions I was given. While admitting his relationship with Dankarami, a notorious terrorist kingpin who has been on the police wanted list, Suleiman Ilyasu said Dankarami is operating in Katsina, Zamfara, and some parts of Kaduna State. He, however, pleaded with the police operatives to temper justice with mercy, even as they assured of charging the suspected terrorist to court for prosecution after investigation. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
All right, thank you, Abdullah Yamadi, for that report. With that, we'll go for a very short break. When we return, Daybreak continues. Please stay.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. If you're just joining us, it's time for us to take a look at the dailies on Daybreak. And we have in the studio Ben Shema, the Director of News, Voice of Nigeria, and he'll be giving us perspectives on some of the stories on the former Director of News. Beg your pardon.
That was why I was always already smiling.
Yeah,
to correct you.
You know, we saw it all happen right here. He was the Director of News right here on the show until when he, retired. So perhaps that's why. Now, we'll start with the Daily Trust newspaper today. The lead story here talks about CBN yet to release old notes to banks. It has the writers that says commercial banks struggle to meet customers' needs. Nigerians decry rejection by traders. Inject new notes to ease cash crunch, says experts. You'd find all that on page 4. Now, above the lead story, you'd find also governorship polls. INEC completes Beaver's reconfiguration, begins deployment on page 12. Forex crisis, banks slash BTA to $2,000, review processing time to 120 days on page 19. Despite setbacks, Nigerians should be proud of 2023 elections, says British envoy. You'd find that on page 12. The pictorial shows you residents helping motorists push a car stuck on a flooded street at Ilepo in Okia Odo in Lagos yesterday. You also have, these other parts of the country, the southwest, especially in Lagos, they still deal with waters, regardless of whether we're in a dry season. Below that, you would see also 12.9 million cyber attacks recorded during presidential poll, says Pantami. You'd find all the details on page 5. And then obese lawyers begin inspection of election materials on page 10. Police declare Bauchi rep wanted over murder on page 6. How I reclaimed my Kano Central mandate, Senator Rufai Hanga. And that's on page 3. These are the main stories on Daily Trust this morning.
Now let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper has a lead story that says, banks limit customers to 20,000 naira over the counter. And the first writer says, branches expect more allocation from CBN. The second, don't reject notes, says governors. Beneath that, we have foreign airlines trapped cash now $743.7 million. And the writer says, federal government promises to clear backlog. Above the masthead, we have Dosumo, other Lagos PDP bigwigs back Sanwo-Olu. Global crisis likely with collapse of 2 U.S. banks. And then still on the Nation, federal government reserves $680 million for youth in tech, says Vice President. Be proud of February 25th poll, says UK envoy. And we also have Lady kills landlord over electricity bill. Rivers Assembly candidate abducted. These are the major stories on the Nation newspaper for today.
All right, now on the Punch newspaper this morning, the lead story there is about Naira crisis. It says banks ration old notes. NLC insists on 7-day ultimatum. Customers laments as CBN retains withdrawal. Old notes deposits limits. Fill stations, traders, motorists accept old currencies. POS agents slash charges. You also have CBN mum on disbursement of more old 1,500 naira notes to banks. Now, you'd also find, beside the pictorial, review 1,000 naira NIN fee. Council tells NIMC, that's NIMC. Oyo SDP candidate withdraws, backs Makinde. You also have INEC will prosecute electoral offenders with speed, says Mahmoud Yakubu. Now, above the masthead, dollar shortage, banks slash travel allowance, foreign school fees. Foreign airlines trapped funds hit $743 million. IATA, almost 13 million cyber attacks recorded during polls, according to the federal government. So these are the main stories on the Punch this morning.
Over now to the Guardian newspaper, which has a little story that's still on the Naira issue. It says, Naira crisis, slow compliance despite CBN order, banks ration old notes. And the first rider, business owners, traders defy CBN, reject old 500 Naira, 1,000 Naira. We also have CBN silent on returned bank notes, warehoused cash. And just beneath the masthead, we have rule of law. Over 130 CSOs, lawyers insist Bawa must go. And we also have, don't present Igbo senator with EFCC baggage as Senate president, says Ohaneze. Still on the Guardian, Delta PDP Guba candidate escapes assassination. Middle Belt youth flay Shetima over sacred visit to Jos. And below the pictorial, we have Guba poll. INEC, NSA Read Riot Act, warn against violence. And just at the end here, we have size, tenor of loans to manufacturing sector, discouraging productivity. These are the major stories on the Guardian.
All right, now on the leadership newspaper this morning, the lead story, bank e-payment glitches continue despite soaring transaction volumes. You have experts blame policy failure on hasty approach as banks pay out old Naira notes. Queues persist nationwide. You also would have other stories. Above the lead story, governorship polls, NSA, INEC ask candidates to call supporters to order. Also, Naira redesign. You can't absolve yourself of blame, CSOs tell PMB. Health sector, pharmacists present demands to Tinubu. Oshibajo launches $600 million program for youths in tech, creative industry. Man to die by hanging for killing own father in Akwa Ibom. Senate President, we have not endorsed anyone, says Ohaneze. 2023 elections, Nigeria's cyberspace survived 12 million attacks, says Pantami. These are the main stories on the leadership this morning.
Now let's take a look at the Nature News. It has a lead story that says AFDB OK's £362,000 funding for Yobe Basin Trust Fund. And just beneath the masthead, we have flooding. Federal government plans relocation of 10,000 Kogi victims. We also have federal government lifts environmental disaster burden of Kano communities. Just beneath that, Nasema warns Nasarawa communities against 2023 wet season. Below the pictorial, we have ExxonMobil to end routine gas flaring in 2030. We also have train vehicles crash, NRC to build flyovers at level crossings. And just at the strip beneath, we have boxing. Anthony Joshua can still bounce back, says promoter. These are the major stories on Nature News for today.
All right, now let's get some perspectives to some of the stories this morning that we have. Welcome again to the program, Ben Sheman. Thank you for joining us.
Always a great pleasure.
Yeah. Well, the issue of the cash crunch, we are yet to move away from that, despite the statements that we've had from the Central Bank of Nigeria. I would again ask you the same question I asked my co-anchor. Is it too early to expect any change from the status quo?
By next week, we'll see more improvement. Why am I saying so? If we check, each time there is this election cycle, there's always cash mopping, liquid cash mopping by the banks or the central bank itself. And that was even before we could go into this currency redesign. So it's not going to be different at all. But I foresee that by next week it's going to be better. There will be easing either by way of allotment or withdrawals. Transactions in the informal sector, that's very, very key. Where you move on with, I've been holding 500 naira notes in the last 3 weeks. It's here with
Is
me.
it the old one or the new one?
It's the old one, you know. And so I believe that by the time I go out, I'll try to buy a newspaper with it and see. But I know that they've always been rejecting it, and I've been carrying it all along. So I see that, I think that by next week it's going to be better, and that will be after the elections, because some of this cash crunch we're seeing, I mean, at the point you could see the body shape and dance of the government. They needed to control cash flows during elections. Remember the primaries of APC, where the president said it won't be that the owner of cash should be the candidate. At the point they were even saying, look, return monies to those candidates who indeed are stepping down. So that tells you they needed to have a system where money should not be the influencer. But again, it came out a bit worse for the economy. Surely it did. And like I said, the former informal sector of the economy strives so much in liquid cash transactions, cash at hand, goods at hand. So you take money, you carry my goods, something like that. So you could see that they were also terribly hit. But in the midst of that, you could see that the culture of cashless transactions became a bit very high in Nigeria. And I think that even when we're looking for this December final deadline, you see that some people still come out on December 31st. I still have this old
Mr. Sherman, even though the cashless, you say it became high, but what it did was to show the flaws. What it did was to show that a lot of Nigerian banks were not prepared. Because a lot of people noticed that they would do transfers, it would bounce back and all of that. People lost money in the process.
Yes, people lost money in the process. Just like I saw in one of the headlines, the rush at which the policy was done. Well conceived, but the implementation became an issue. So, again, just like people spoke about INEC and the use of service providers, what happened when it came to transferring this result? In the same vein, you could see that you make some transactions, it's not reaching the bank, or it has reached the bank, it's not been sent to a recipient somewhere along the line. So we expect that some of these problems should be a kind of corrected, and truly let's face some of the truths. Kidnapping within that short period reduced, because if you kidnap, I mean, even the kidnapper was also trying to survive.
Well, if you're saying
today,
that kidnapping
just a moment, you see that there's that easing, and kidnapping from last week
has
started. Because they've seen that, yes, there's the easing of some of these things. And you see, armed robbery, where people will block you on the roads, your life, your money, or dash into your compound. I believe that sometime to come, this policy is going to work.
There are those who argue that the easing of, or the reduction in the cases of abduction and kidnapping reduced because of the elections, not necessarily because of the cashless policy.
Elections suffered lack of money, surely. Where I went to do some interviews somewhere, and an official was lamenting, said, all those who helped us to win elections, see, we just have account numbers, we can't transfer. I know that tells you really cash was an issue and it wasn't there. But then some people voted, or even if you didn't win, some people worked for you.
Okay,
Mr.
as it is now.
I want us to go back to the kidnapping issue.
Okay.
For instance, the economy suffered massively due to this policy. So even if kidnapping reduced during that period, consider that it's not a policy that is sustainable, seeing that the economy was, was suffering. It therefore means that, the money had to come back. Don't you think that what that shows us is that we need another solution to the kidnapping, not necessarily this?
I agree with you, but the perfect way in which you cast your sentence or your expression, the system has failed. I tell you, the world is moving. We cannot run away from a cashless policy. Check the developed world. It is just there. Nobody carries bags and heaps of money here and there. Stella, I'll say it, go to Germany, go to France, carry the highest denomination of euro notes. You will never spend them. Nobody will accept them. They say, go dump them in your bank. And when you carry 2,000, 3,000 cash you want to dump into an account, they're asking you how you actually came out of this. They are busy checking this terrorism funding, flows, inflows of money coming from all sorts of drug deals and here and there.
Okay.
We cannot be an exception. I believe it's going to work. But for now, truly the problems are so many that we think government too should be thinking of how to ease them. And that's why you see from yesterday the old bank notes at the point they are being released. In some banks they are not, and even when they are released, you go to the market, you cannot spend them.
Okay, Benjamin, do you see us actually phasing out these old notes even by December, going by what's happening right now? Because right now it looks like the new notes have disappeared. You just can't find them anywhere. In fact, you ask POS operators, most of them don't have it. You can't find it in the ATMs, you can't find it in the banks. So is it really feasible to even say that we are going to phase out these old notes even by December? Because we don't see the new
It is very, very possible. Now look at the automobile industry. When you say, okay, we're not going to use petrol any longer, some people say, no, when we are making oil findings here and there in Nigeria, no, it won't work. We don't make cars. The makers will just change to solar, and you have no option. So, except otherwise, our own engineers can now make our own cars. In the same vein, you see, when the CBN is in charge of this, they do mopping when they want. And when you're talking of minting and printing, of course, there is a monetary policy.
It doesn't look like they're printing anymore.
Yes, because if at the point, I'm not their spokesperson at all, it's my own thinking. I'm not. But if they look at the new ones on ground and the old ones that are being returned, and they can kind of reach a certain margin, they have to hold production of a new one, or even release, or injecting into this the system. But you see, in doing all of this, they have to look at inflation. Now, are we going to reach, December 31st, and the old Naira notes will disappear, new ones will come in? I think only time will tell. And the new government that will be on ground, what will be their policy? I believe in terms of what the media will say, agenda setting, what therefore will be their thinking. Remember, a very strong, just a moment, a very strong follower or believer of Asiwaju, Ahmed Tinubu Ahmed Rufai of Kaduna State, said, if and when Tinubu wins, there will be currency reversal. Now, this again sends some signals within the economic world. And will there be uncertainty because of these statements? And will El Rufai's statements be cast in stone? And will Asiwaju just take that and say, okay, it's true, El Rufai said it, therefore let me implement it. So the economic think tank for the incoming regime will have to look at the monetary policy very well. Because a weak currency will tell you you have a weak economy, and of course it will entail on the generality of people. You see it from their faces.
Mr. Chairman, do you know what this policy showed us? It brought to the fore the informal sector and the fact that they dominate the economy. That's the truth. Now, whatever policy is going to come up, as long as this sector has not really been put into context, don't you think that it will fail? Because this sector, they deal with cash daily. How do you do that? How do you manage that?
My sister, how do we manage that? Again, your sentence is perfect tense. It will fail. In future perfect, it will fail. I think that a trial, go to some eateries, the informal sector of the economy. Truly, they say, okay, how much food do you want? I'm taking 1,000. This is the account. So while waiting, you do your transactions. When they see a lot, they serve you food. In other words, yes, this is the informal sector of the economy. Now, why are all these lapses being seen? So if there are things to do with communications, telecommunications, they should be corrected so that we accept this and we move on. We cannot, I still repeat, be moving with sacks and bags of money. We can't be storing money at home. We should also know when they said we've printed so money in the bank, in mint, and they are so in the bank, then within the human beings or the economy or the market, the money market, we know this is the amount in banks, we know this is in circulation. So that helps a kind of to project. And as we are told, I'm not an economist, that it costs you so much to print money. Now, why is it that it's so wise for the bigger economies abroad? You see only little denominations, $1 naira, $1 note, $5, $10, $20. You just see them so much in circulation. But the big money, if you have anything to do in millions, you see, you just do some transfers. But with us, we are still dragging Ghana must go to go and do transactions. I mean, we should move forward. Honestly, okay. We should.
There are other aspects of this policy. What we've heard merely is that the 1,500 naira notes continue to be legal tender. But there are also other policies that were introduced alongside, like the withdrawal limit policy. That still stands. The 20 people are only allowed. People can only withdraw as much as 20,000 naira of the old notes. And even for the deposits, there's an amount that you cannot deposit, in the commercial banks. Those policies still stand. So looking at all of this, are they not going to affect the whole reversal process and making sure that we now have currency in circulation, like cash, enough cash available?
Well, I think that in as much as you have a heap of money and they said you can account for the source, please go and deposit your money. It's just a question. The source of this money is just like some of us leaving service. You go pick code of conduct form. You said you have how much at hand, at home, and as you are seated. You declare what's the source. How many bank accounts do you have? You declare how much is in each. You say so. And what are the sources? You say all of that. That is code of conduct for you, declaring of, that's money. Then it comes to assets, something like that. So some of this money, when you're going to deposit, sometimes when you transfer, they say beneficiary. And at the point they say your relationship with the beneficiary, so that they know the source, the recipient, what's the relationship, and what is this money for? A kind of, yeah, it's mine. I've been saving it, I've been keeping it at home. So where's the criminality there? There's no law that says I shouldn't keep money at home.
All right. Okay, let's move away from that and talk about the coming elections, the governorship elections. We have the lead story of this day newspaper saying INEC to political parties, see March 18 elections as contests and not war. It has the riders that says pledges to set up legal team to handle cases of electoral offenses expeditiously, permits PDP, APC legal teams to inspect presidential election materials. Call your lieutenants to order, NSA tells political gladiators. So these warnings are coming 3 days to the governorship elections. Do you think that politicians will listen to this? Just this morning we are reading a story about the police in Bauchi State issuing an arrest warrant, declaring wanted, declaring a former House of Reps member wanted, and we are just still dealing with the issue of Adodogwa in Kano and the rest of them. The desperation that we have seen in this election, do you think that is what we are used to seeing, or there's a new dimension to it?
Of course, there's a new dimension to it. Do you know what it takes to defeat an incumbent? Look at Plateau State. A governor who is trying to be a senator like any other person, after consolidating himself as a governor, you now want to be a senator like others. And you are the Director General of a candidate who has won an election. They said you've been defeated. Is he going to rock the boat? Is he just going to sit down and say, oh boy, what is happening? You go to Benue. What is it like that they're going to do? There are new things coming on board. And if you go to Lagos, this guy of Labour, Vivo, I have that Vivo, yeah?
Vivo, yeah.
Yes. When you look at the way some people will cast headlines, they prefer to use his Igbo name.
Chinedu.
Chinedu in the Yoruba. Yes, in the Yoruba chiefdom, it is a kind of trying to profile a man. It's like you don't belong here. Go to where you belong. And that's why some of us are clamoring for what you call state of residence. How can you are here in Abuja, you married here in Abuja, your children are all here, they don't even go to Bauchi, and now they want to go to NDA, or they want to apply for, say, go and get attestation from your local government that your father does not work there, he doesn't pay taxes there, not just that he was born there, but your children are born here. Why don't we call them indigenes of Abuja? Or if they were born in Sokoto and you are an Igbo man, why are you not an indigene? Let's make it state of residence rather than state of origin. An Indian is in 10 Downing Street. He took Hinduism, a thing that was never had before, into that place. The British didn't die or hang themselves.
Why does it appear as though some of these narratives about politics has become so intense these days? I don't know, but issue of ethno-religious leanings, they become so intense in our political conversations. It's worse when you go on social media, and the ethnic profiling and the way people are being criticized or put in a certain light just for political gains.
You see, the injection of religion, as you put it. Those days, truly, and you hear, politics is a dirty game. And you find those who think they are very, very religious up there, they will avoid politics. Today, again, the same religion is being brought. Come on, if you don't vote for your own, now you sabi, as it is said in Nigeria. And you can now see religion is making politics, is hitting up the political barometer in Nigeria. Society is so hot. Where do you belong? You have to belong, even areas where you have a dominant religion, which denomination, which of the Derikas you belong to, which of the Christian faiths do you belong, which sect do you belong? A kind of, and when you look at places where these religious activities have been harmonized, pilgrimage commissions, when you listen to stories coming from those people, organizing trips to go to holy lands, when I listen to some of the stories coming from there, I say, no, This is just not it. You're going to holiday, but go and see the wuru things taking place.
Are we as a
there.
society ready for the dangers associated with this, really?
Truly, I think that some people are out to destroy Nigerians ahead. When I say Nigerians ahead, the future generation. You see people, children at primary school, you're already teaching them religious differences. You know, you don't belong. I won't say where I found this. I saw a religious book being torn into pieces. And I asked what? He said, when we see, we should tear. Why are we teaching these people these things? When you look at even Geneva Convention, when it comes to wars, anybody who runs into, when you surrender, you raise up your hand, you drop your gun, you are not supposed to be killed. When you run into, in fact, somebody who is already running, he's backing you by running and you shoot him behind, you are wrong. Geneva Convention. If he enters a shrine, a place of worship, church or mosque, or where you have stones or trees, and it is identified as a place where people go to worship, it does not matter whether they are worshiping ants or they are worshiping a cave. Geneva Convention, that place is a sanctuary.
How do we deal with this?
But today, you see that whether you are in a mosque or you are in a church, you are not spared. And we have religious leaders who indeed must teach the young how to hate.
All right.
It doesn't augur well for this country.
All right, Mr. Sherman, the elections are just 3 days away, and I'm seeing stories this morning of some candidates of political parties endorsing other candidates of other parties, and I'm seeing some parties suspending their governorship candidate at this point. Are we going to see a different kind of election from what we saw on the 25th? Because it looks as if there's going to be a lot of, we already have alliances. So it doesn't appear as if all those parties that we saw prominently in the presidential will be that prominent at the state level.
Alliances are not new. And this is not the first time that they will happen in Nigeria. You remember when you had Waziri Ibrahim, Nigerian People's Party, Zik. Then you had, when they had some issues, you had Great Nigerian People's Party, but they were working
Why
together.
these alliances happening now? That's, you know, that's my question.
Yes. NPN, UPN Accord, you remember, and that thing, they worked together at the point. PDP, when they first came in, Government of National Unity, the issue is this. When you say, why is it now? It's always been happening. And the vision of those who align, you believe that you will not win, but you have a sizable number of voters. And for that reason, let me align with this. If you align and that party wins, in the sharing of portfolios, you have to have something. But I want to advise and warn those who are aligning or telling voters, vote for our candidate who is now so. Go on the negotiation table. If this party you believe, if you support it and it wins, okay, already that party has the governorship candidate, has that of the deputy governor. So what is next? Chief of staff? If you align and we win, will you give me chief of staff? That is key. Okay, where are other key? Some will say juicy environments works.
So it's not about any kind of principle or any change that is just personal benefits.
You see, people, their faces and their stomachs and legs move the same direction. Where they think that is going to be better for them, they move on. It's not about first, let me serve Nigeria. It's not about service. I first. Like it used to be in Liberia when Samuel Doe was tired and decided to do what he did against all returnees who were manipulating Liberia. In fact, that time it was tact, I, me, and myself only. And that was what was happening. Not until Samuel Doe said, no, we are the indigenous Liberians. We have to have an ideal society. So we know people who simply want to change wardrobes. We know people who indeed see this political alignment as an investment.
A quick comment, Ben Sherman, a quick comment. This is coming from the British Envoy. It says, despite setbacks, Nigerians should be proud of 2023 elections. A quick comment on that before we close.
Yeah, I think it's her own opinion, but I think that PDP will not agree, Labour Party will not agree, and of course APC will agree with the envoy. And some people will believe, okay, those who indeed will say it's the wish of God. And it was the wish of God that it should happen this way. Let's take it and move on. And that is what this envoy is saying. Nigerians move on. And happily, I'm happy that we are not moving to the streets with cutlasses, machetes, spears, bows and arrows because we have failed. We are moving towards the court. So I think it's good omen.
All right. Thank you so much, Ben Sherman, former Director of News, Voice of Nigeria, for joining us on Daybreak and sharing your perspectives with us on the stories on the front pages of our newspapers this morning.
Always a great pleasure. Thank you very much.
Now we'll take a short breather, and then when we return, it will be top of the hour. The show will continue. Join us again.
But in a situation where you find that a look at the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying with us. It's Daybreak on Trust TV, reaching you from the nation's capital in Abuja. For those who are just joining, we're 1 hour into the show already. So let's take a look at the headlines again for you. Police declare Bauchi rep wanted over murder.
12.9 million cyber attacks recorded during last elections, federal government.
Foreign airlines trapped funds now $743 million, according to IATA.
Now let's take a look at the details. The Force Headquarters of the Nigeria Police has declared the current member of the House of Representatives representing Bauchi Federal Constituency, Honorable Yakubu Shehu Abdullahi, wanted. Abdullahi was declared wanted for alleged criminal conspiracy, causing grievous hurt, disturbance of public peace, and culpable homicide. The police further announced a 1 million naira reward for anyone with useful information that could lead to the arrest of the 45-year-old lawmaker. The bulletin, which has the picture and address of the lawmaker on it, was from the State Criminal Investigation Department of the Bauchi State Police Command, issued by the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba. The bulletin was made available to journalists on Tuesday by the Police Public Relations Officer in the state, SP Ahmed Wakil.
The federal government has said that a total of 12.98 million attacks were recorded during the February 25 presidential and National Assembly elections period in Nigeria. Originated from both within and outside Nigeria, the attacks were made on public websites and portals and averaged around 1.5 million daily, the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Isa Ali Pantami, said in a statement on Tuesday. However, Pantami said that the attacks skyrocketed to 6.10 million on presidential election day. He said a committee set up by his ministry to curtail the activities of cyber criminals during the elections started work on February 24, 2023 and ended work on February 28. Pantami said that the run-up to the 2023 general elections and threat intelligence revealed an astronomical increase in cyber threats to Nigerian cyberspace.
As Nigeria's forex crisis deepens, repatriated funds of foreign airlines have peaked to $743.7 million from $662 million in January 2023. The International Air Transport Association disclosed this in a letter addressed to the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, signed by the Area Manager West and Central Africa, Dr. Samson Fatokun. In the letter, IATA called on the minister to intervene so the foreign airlines can repatriate their funds.
Now, to some of the packages we have this morning. Police in Katsina have apprehended a notorious bandit, Suleiman Ibrahim, a member of the Dankarami terrorist camp in Rugu Forest. The arrested terrorist kingpin confessed to have killed over 15 people in the 3 years he operated as a bandit. Abdullahi Amadi reports.
The police operatives from Duzima Area Command apprehended the terrorist during an operation in Duzima, Bazari, Safana, and Damusa local government areas.
This suspect that you are seeing here with me, by name Suleiman Ilyasu, alias Erbusha, is 28 years old and he's from a village called Asaurara, Sabor Ungwa, Walawa, Jibia local government area of Katsina State. He's a member of a notorious syndicate of terrorist bandits, particularly under the camp of one Dankaremi. Dankaremi has been on the wanted list of the Nigeria police for committing crimes against humanity in Katsina, Zamfara, Kaduna, Kebbi, and Sokoto states. He confessed to have killed more than 15 persons in several attacks in various local government areas of the state.
The suspected terrorist also confessed to have masterminded several attacks which led to killings, abductions, and rustling of thousands of domestic animals across the flashpoint local government areas. He also confessed to have participated in numerous attacks on various communities in both Katsina and Zamfara states, leading to killings and destruction of properties worth hundreds of millions of naira. Look, I know I masterminded several attacks and participated in many others within the 3 years I served in Dankaremi terrorist camp. But that does not mean the police cannot temper justice with mercy. I was in the terrorist camp as a result of some conditions I was given. While admitting his relationship with Dankarami, a notorious terrorist kingpin who has been on the police wanted list, Suleiman Ilyasu said Dankarami is operating in Katsina, Zamfara and some parts of Kaduna State. He, however, pleaded with the police operatives to temper justice with mercy, even as they assured of charging the suspected terrorist to court for prosecution after investigation. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Thank you, Abdullahi, for that report. Traders in Kano say businesses are gradually picking up since the presidential nod and the CBN's directive to banks on legal status of the old Naira notes. Trust TV's correspondent Idris Jibrin reports that although customers are still using point of sale to pay for transactions, the old 500 Naira and 1,000 Naira notes are now being accepted by traders. Let's take the report.
Across many parts of the commercial city of Kano, majority of traders say they have now resumed to collecting the old Naira notes following the CBN announcement. But some say the cash is not available in the market.
We have had the news on the radio, but you see there is still no cash in the market. People are yet to start bringing out their money, but when people started bringing it out, we will collect.
According to traders in some market of Kano metropolis, most people are still not aware that CBN has directed the use of the old 500 and 1,000 Naira note, which is why some customers and traders alike are yet to start accepting it.
Whatever the CBN governor says is like the president, because he can't do it without the approval of the president. But you see, some people are still not accepting it. But we here in the market, if they bring the money to us, we will collect. Even now, I have accepted 10,000 Naira old note. And anyone that bring it to me, I will collect it.
Although people are still trooping across all commercial banks in Kano to get cash, but traders say less than 24 hours since the announcement, businesses are fast picking up in Kano, and that many people have complied to accepting the old notes.
Truly, because of this announcement, we have started collecting the old Naira notes, and businesses are picking up. And even those who are bringing goods to us from the village, once we call them, they will bring it because they know that there is cash now. We will just give them. So gradually, things are picking up here with us. Even now, I want to buy ingredients to take to my house, and I'm going to give them the old Naira note. So people are accepting it now.
At the moment, cash is still scarce in circulation, but most people believe that with the latest development, things will improve in the next coming days. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Now, directive of the Central Bank of Nigeria to commercial banks recognizing the old Naira notes as legal tender has elicited happiness among residents of the Federal Capital Territory. Trust TV's Kabir Lawal reports that the long silence of the Apex Bank since the Supreme Court order on March 3rd has left the residents confused. The report.
Central Bank of Nigeria in a statement on Monday recognized the use of the old 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira note as a legal tender till 31st December this year. It is a sigh of relief for many bank customers who find it hard to access their hard-earned deposits in the bank owing to the CBN's Naira redesign and cashless policy. Some bank customers said they are happy with the development, but government should avoid the kind of confusion their silence must have caused.
It's a good policy, but unfortunately it came late because people have suffered a lot. You know, you could hear people dying while going to get currency, while going to get cash, either at the ATM or the banking hall. It's quite unfortunate that despite the fact that many Nigerians, many we in Nigerians have gone against this policy, and that CBN and with the Supreme Court decision almost close to a week plus now, And just yesterday, CBN governor is coming out to tell the public that they can continue using the old currency.
Baba, I never collect you. I never even see am this morning sef. I still dey reason am sha. I still dey reason am. But because why I dey see, I still dey reason am be say, you know say before, if God talk, we go wait for president. Now president never talk, but CBN don't talk. Sure, but I still dey reason am. If na him be the koko.
Some said that the people really suffered from the cashless policy implementation, adding that many were subjected to unnecessary hardship.
According to what I hear yesterday, they say CBN say make we dey use the old naira notes. And for the direction where we see where the thing they go, the thing no make sense. That means Nigeria no dey move forward. Why it no make sense to me be say, I think say they have plan for in the initial stage of introducing the new currency. But now coming in direction of stopping the old currency, bringing the new currency to come in existence. Unfortunately, yesterday night they said we should go back to the old currency. That means I don't see the government, whether the government have any good direction.
They are taking us back. Since they have already taken it out, let it remain out. The way forward is just to make sure that the new currency is being printed out more so that it will just circulate. I didn't succeed with getting money because everybody, they locked the gate and they are saying they are giving old currency, but yet there was no money. And I've been there for over 2 hours, so there's no need. I have to go back.
The Supreme Court had on March 3rd ordered that the old Naira note remain legal tender till December 31st.
Despite the Central Bank of Nigerian directive to make the old currency a legal tender in the country, people are finding it very difficult, especially at the ATM machines, and they complain to us that the machine is not dispensing the new or the old currency, making life difficult for them. In Abuja, Kabir Lawal, Trust TV News.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kabir Lawal, for that report. We'll now join financial analyst who joins us virtually from Lagos, talking about Mukhtar Mohammed, to give reactions to some of these issues. Hello, Mukhtar. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning. Well, if you can hear me, you may just go ahead and give us your reaction. I mean, Nigerians have had to deal with the cash crunch for weeks, perhaps for months now, and we found ourselves in a situation where we don't have the old, neither do we have the new currency. And then all of a sudden, CBN now comes out to make a statement, use the old cash. So the suffering was unnecessary in the first place.
You hit the nail on the head. The suffering was unnecessary in the first place. The policy have finally come, and we all know that this policy was not well thought out. It was politically motivated. Like I always say, you don't play politics with your economy. We've seen the CBN finally destroying one of the most vibrant sector of Nigerian economy, the informal sector. We've seen the CBN send a lot of people into the unemployment market by this policy. We've seen untold hardship and loss of productivity among Nigerians by virtue of this policy. Like you say, we've seen people queue and lost their life also because of this policy. It's very, very unfortunate that a good policy that was not well thought out and was done for political reasons. And that is why we are suffering the way we are suffering. We've not seen the end, the negativity of this policy until we begin to get the data from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, NBS. The former chairman of that, the former DG of that Professor Yemi Kale came out today and said that we have lost about 10 trillion to our GDP from the redesigned policy of the CBN. And that is the informal sector, which account to 23 trillion have been starved of funds for the past 3 months. We are only looking at the fund side. We are not even looking at the productivity, the loss of labor, the loss of means of livelihood, and the security implications that a lot of Nigerians have gone through because of a good policy that had underlying tunes. I'm really very disappointed.
All right, so Mukhtar, now the CBN says the old 500 naira and old 1,000 naira can be used. Now, before this policy, the economy wasn't doing very well. The economy was almost on its knees before this policy. And now Yemi Kale said yesterday that the GDP, will contract by at least 10 to 15 trillion naira in the first quarter. Where do we go from here? What can be done immediately to begin to repair whatever damage this policy must have caused?
Unfortunately, I don't think the present government or the CBN has the resources or the intelligence to do anything because of their body language. You could see a CBN that should come out to apologize to Nigerians and begin to tell Nigerians of palliative measures to lessen their burdens. But we see a CBN that is arrogantly not even saying anything, thinking that the policy was not successful because of sabotage. And a government that is already out of power, whose body language is saying, look, I just want to leave. I'm not interested in anything that is happening. So there's much to be desired. I don't see this present government or the CBN doing anything. Because when you talk about doing something to alleviate the suffering, it means pumping in more cash into the system, making sure there's availability of cash in the shortest possible times. Even after the CBN made this pronouncement on Monday, up to yesterday, there's still rationing of the old note, not even the new notes, in banking hall. So it shows that the CBN may just be playing to the gallery. The independence of the CBN has been called to question since the present CBN governor, Governor Emefiele, came to power. And it has caused the CBN independence to question. Remember, after the Supreme Court judgment, the CBN did not make any pronouncement until the presidency made a pronouncement by the president. That is when the CBN came out and said, we will accept the 500 and the 1,000 naira as a legal tender. Remember, before that, the CBN came out with a statement which was credited to the CBN government in trying to maybe statement about the incoming president. They quickly came to the press to give a disclaimer to that. But when it came to the policy that affect ordinary Nigeria, they were silent until the presidency came out with a statement. So unfortunately, looking at this CBN, the immediate thing to be done was pumping cash into the system. And it comes with its own challenge, which has to do with inflation. But as it stands now, you've already inflation is already going to be very high because the cost of goods and services have gone up because of the shortage of cash. So we are already in a deep problem that it will take the ingenuity of the incoming administration to do something about it.
Okay, there are still other policies that are still standing, such as the cash withdrawal limits and the limits on deposits for the old cash. Do you see this also affecting this process in making sure that we, we find stability in the system?
Because if you want to do the right thing, you are supposed to, with the kind of challenges that you have seen, you are supposed to remove all those limits and make sure the economy flow. When there's stability, you begin to introduce limits. Remember, again, there's a court judgment that says the CBN does not have the right to fine you on the amount of money that you collect from the bank. So you have the right to collect your money. They have no right to fine anybody because the only people that can set fine of is a competent court of law in Nigeria. The CBN does not have a right to fine people for collecting their money. So that is already there. But again, it is there until somebody activates it by taking the bank or the CBN to court. And maybe this time they will be able, they will not apply it immediately. So definitely that is there. About the limit in terms of depositing of the new Naira note or the old Naira note also. That is done for political reason, we all know, because we've been made to understand that the old Naira notes are most of the notes that the politicians were keeping behind for vote buying, and that was the reason behind this redesigning policy. But that accusation is neither here nor there. As it stands now, if the CBN wants to do things right, if the CBN wants the economy to come back, not just the CBN, the federal government, then it's high time you remove all these barriers and make sure there's a smooth running of the economy, because a lot of businesses have gone out. A lot of people are still suffering. A lot of manpower is being wasted in queues in the banking hall. I mean, it's only in Nigeria that you see such things. And this is not government money. It's their own money that they work for, money that they are entitled to. And it's not that you are looking for a currency that is outside the control of the Nigerian government. You are talking about Naira, not dollar, not pounds. It's very, very disturbing situation. And again, if history is beginning to repeat itself, history always repeats itself when it comes to President Buhari. 1984, you have the control price. 2023, you have the scarcity of Naira notes.
All right, Mukhtar, aside the suffering by ordinary Nigerians and all of that, where does the banking sector go from here? Because during this period, the banks, a lot of them, their flaws came to the fore. In fact, I saw a video yesterday on social media where people were taking out time to, cast aspersions on each bank. They'll call the name of the bank and say something about it. And then in this past 1 month, thereabout, the banking halls have been empty. Where does it go from here as its services, its staff, and all of that?
I think where it goes from here, there's nothing bad with the banking hall to be empty, because globally banking halls are always empty because everybody have gone cashless. That's why we say the policy was a nice policy. But what we see here is infrastructural decay. When we don't have the infrastructure to take the number of people that came cashless. And that's why you had the challenge that we had. Ordinarily, the banking hall should be empty naturally if I can do my transaction at the comfort of my house. But again, we have to come to the challenge that we pointed out. We are driving an informal sector that is largely driven by cash. It will take time to drive this informal sector into a formal, to begin to accept cashless. And also, even in the formal sector, about 30% of that formal sector also is driven by cash. When you look at the petroleum sector, especially the filling stations, they accept cash also. They deal mostly on cash. So definitely, the banking hall being empty is not a challenge, but it's just that the system being put in place to guide to help was not effective enough because the infrastructure is not there. What I expect the CBN to do was to come together with the banking, come together with the Nigerian banking inter-settlement company, sit down with them and begin to build infrastructures that will definitely accept all Nigerian when you want to do transaction cashless. Because what we've seen is that before we used to have maybe about 20 million Nigerians doing digital transaction, cashless transaction, using POS, using ATM. But now what do we see? We saw almost about 80 million at a particular time trying to do it. And so the system could not handle it. And that's why we've had all those issues that we are having. And this is boiled down to improper planning. Because if CBN say they have been thinking this thought for the past 2 years, I expected that they should have been thinking it with the banking sector and telling them to improve their payment system, and they won't have the challenges that we are having now. So definitely, in terms of the bottom line of the banks, I don't think their bottom line will be largely affected. When you look at that, this transaction comes with fees, and this fee also goes to the bank, and also the government also would have enjoyed it also, because if you look at what the MBS is talking about, 116% in terms of value added tax for that means for every transaction Nigerians do through the cashless, the digital platform, they pay the value added tax to the government. So the two people that have benefited from this shortage of cash has been the government and the banks. And unfortunately, the people that is supposed to be the key driver of both the banks and the government, both are the ones that are suffering.
Okay, Mukhtar, why can't we have more of the new cash printed? Why are we going back to the old cash? Why can't CBN just make available the new cash right now?
I think the CBN is not telling us all truth. They are not telling us, they are just telling us they have the capacity. I, for personally, think that the Nigerian printing company did not have the capacity to print the number of notes that the CBN thought they would be able to print, and that has evolved into technical issues, and that is why they are not able to have those new notes circulated. And also, you mustn't forget also that the CBN also made it clear to us that even if the new note comes, we will not have it in circulation like we used to have the old note. Remember, before that time, they said they have about 3-point-something trillion of 3-point-something trillion of the old note printed, and about 2.3 trillion of that note was outside the banking space. And when they came up with this policy, they said they've retrieved about 1-point-something trillion, and they were looking for about I think about 700 trillion to come back to the banking space. And so they made us believe that for every maybe 10,000 naira that you return for the old currency, you were going to get less than that in terms of the new currency. Then the other ones will be channeled through the digital platform. But what we saw was that for every 10,000 naira you gave to them, they gave you only 1,000. And so that's why I think we had the challenges that we had. And also they didn't have the capability to print enough of the new naira note that they promised Nigeria. Remember, before now, they made it categorically clear that the ATM machines will be dispensing only 200 naira notes, no more 1,000 or 500. But up to this moment, even when the ATM had to dispense money, they dispense the 1,000 naira note instead of the 200 naira note as promised by the CBN. So that shows you that there was a challenge somewhere that the CBN may have not emphasized that and did not come out clear to tell Nigerians that, sorry, we cannot meet up with the demands. And that's the challenge. I think they should own up to this, and so that we can move forward. Going back to the old notes, even if the old notes are not available, because if you go to the bank say they've returned this note to the CBN, and the CBN said they destroyed some of this notes.
Mukhtar, yes, even the Daily Trust newspaper says CBN yet to release old notes to banks. And the banks that our reporters went to yesterday said it was the ones that they had before now that they were giving out. Why is it that the CBN is yet to release these old notes to the banks?
I wish I'm the spokesperson of the CBN or the CBN governor, then I'll categorically be able to say why. But again, it comes with a lot of logistics. Remember, when you talk about currency, one of the tools to control inflation is mopping up of liquidity in the system. That's reduction in terms of flow of liquidity, especially physical cash. So I think the CBN may have been looking at the technicality involved. How much of the physical cash are they going to release, the old note? How much of the new note do they have in circulation? So I think that is the challenge. Then they want to see how they can guide against inflation, which is already high. Again, it just shows that they refuse to, when this judgment was done, if they really wanted to comply with this judgment, they would have been looking at this, and they would have been, it wouldn't take them, it's not rocket science, up to a week for them to begin to look at all this technicality of releasing this money. But again, remember that some people say that the old notes are also in the hands of politicians.
Okay, I'm going to interject because of our time, right? And I need you to give me a quick response on this. That can the presidency actually absolve itself? Can the president absolve himself from what has happened to this issue of monetary policy? There are those who are saying that the CBN governor wasn't acting by himself, but we saw, the president by that statement saying he didn't ask anyone not to obey Supreme Court order and the rest of them. So what's your take on that?
The presidency cannot absolve themselves. Remember in that judgment, the CBN was not even party to it. The judgment was all about this federal government should instruct the CBN, because even in the CBN Act, when it comes to currency, it has to go through the presidency for approval. So that is why the government took the federal government to court, because if you take the CBN, the independence of the judiciary has to do with separation of power. And when it comes to the CBN, monetary policies, decisions are not decisions that can be influenced by court. So definitely that is where, and that judgment was given to the federal government. The federal government in turn should have order the CBN to make sure they abide to that judgment. They didn't do that until there was protest from lawyers, people planning to down to before they now respond. So they cannot absorb themselves from it at all. They were part and partner. Remember, the CBN governor keep telling us, I spoke to Mr. President, I spoke to Mr. President. And every step he has taken, he always makes us to know that I saw Mr. President have agreed, Mr. President have agreed, Mr. President have agreed. So they cannot absorb themselves at all.
All right, thank you so much, Mukhtar Mohammed, financial analyst, for joining us on Daybreak and sharing insight with us on this subject. We appreciate that.
My pleasure, thank you.
All right, now time for us to take a quick breather. When we return, we'll continue our discussion on the program. Join us again. All right, thank you for staying. It's Daybreak on Trust TV. Now, the February 25, 2023 National Assembly election will go down in history as the election that produced the highest number of political parties representation in the National Assembly since the beginning of the Fourth Republic in 1999. The composition of the 10th National Assembly will be in sharp contrast to what is obtainable in the outgoing 9th Senate, which comprises representatives from only 3 political parties of the All Progressives Congress, the People's Democratic Party, and the Young People's Party. The 10th National Assembly will be made up of representatives from 8 political parties. To talk about this and the forming of, I would say, selection of principal officers of the National Assembly, we have in the studio a member of the APC, Mustafa Audu, who was a member of the APC Presidential Campaign Council with us in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Good morning, Ayuba. Glad to be here. And good morning, Stella.
Yeah. Well, let's begin by asking, how tough a choice is it for the APC this time around when it comes to picking principal officers given the fact that we now have I would say the influence of the APC sort of has reduced
down, yes.
in the National Assembly. It doesn't have that kind of, majority
that they had previously.
Number that they have previously.
First of all, for me, I would think that it's rather easy and straightforward. As a party, we have to look at the elections, the just concluded elections, and learn immediate lessons from there. What do we see? That Nigerians felt, or a certain section of Nigerians felt, that the Muslim ticket, even though for us it wasn't about religion, was something that really mattered to them. The Southeast also feels not part of somewhat the APC project. APC has not kind of carried them along. So if I were the leadership of the National Assembly, what I would do is look at this. How do you, because if you look at, there was complaint about Muslim. So if you do Muslim, I think that would be even compounding the problem. If you don't take the Southeast along, or the South out, or the South basically, along, especially the South I think is a problem. So for me, I would say, I would look at the circumstances that we're facing. I would look at, because if we as a party don't listen and don't perform this next 4 years, I think Nigerians have given us one last chance. So if the next 4 years we don't perform and address some of these issues, then I think just like PDP, we will go into extinction. So it's critical now. I honestly believe that we have the right leadership. I've supported my party wholeheartedly, because only these two candidates, which is His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and His Excellency Kashim Shettima, had the power, the ability to deliver the way we've delivered, simply because they have the pedigree to move Nigeria to where Nigeria needs to be. So I think the National Assembly should take a cue from this as well, and our leaders should take a cue and look at the Nigerian issue that this election has sprung up, and try and address these issues, even if it's face value, before we can get down to the business, the real business of governance. Because in the next 4 years, if young people are not carried along, if the faces that are the ministers, the appointees are all older faces, if if our leaders don't take the religious aspect into consideration, if we don't take certain things into consideration, I think we would drive ourselves into oblivion.
All right, Mustafa, from what you said, you admitted that the APC at the moment has a baggage.
Yes.
You admitted
Absolutely.
that, which will inform or influence its choice of leadership of the National Assembly.
True.
But 2 days ago, the president-elect said that he had no preferred candidate. Is that the way to go?
Absolutely, because it's politics. The moment, see the way I have spoken, right? I have spoken simply because I'm a young person, and I believe that this is the direction that our country should go. Regardless of, what to say, what not to say. But as a leader, sometimes you have to be more political. If he says, I favor the South, you've immediately disenfranchised the North. If he says, I favor the North, he's immediately disenfranchised the South. If he says Northeast or Northwest, everybody would immediately think, oh, who are the candidates from there? He prefers them. So he has to be political. If you look at President Muhammadu Buhari, when he came in, he said, I belong to everybody and I belong to no one. You can't do that, because you're holding the #1 political seat
but Mustafa,
in Africa.
You do remember that the fact that the president did not show his interest, or did not say who he preferred or the zone, led to what happened in 2015 when, while inauguration was going on, there was a letter saying that the president wanted to meet with the senators elect, and you saw what happened, where we now had a senate president from the ruling party and a deputy senate president from another party. So don't you think that it's important for the president elect to say, oh, well, this zone will get it, or
You're right to a certain extent that the president-elect should start to narrow it down. But I don't think it's a public conversation. I think it should be done privately. I think it should be done through consultation. I think that the leaders should come together, especially the party. The party has not been, has not had his best performance. I'm being honest here. We've not performed so great. Nigerians know this. So if we come out and lie that we're the best, we've done so well, and we point maybe one or two projects that couldn't be done during the PDP time and we did it, I don't think that's good enough. I don't think that is a high scorecard. We can do better. Consultation is very important. The party hasn't been extremely consultative previously, and maybe because Mr. President said he wasn't political. If you're not political, and power doesn't like vacuum, power will never allow for vacuum. So if you're not using that power, someone else is going to use that power. So basically, Mr. President, or the president-elect now, should, through consultation, through negotiations, through looking at the results of the elections, the just concluded elections, should make informed decisions, as well as the party leadership, as well as, and the most important is the senators. Because that decision, regardless of what the party says or the president-elect says, on June 13th, I believe, the senators will all sit down in the House. As long as they form quorum, they will elect a new Senate president. So our leaders...
It's actually June 8th.
Also. June 8th? Yeah. Okay, June 8th. Please forgive me for that. Yeah. So June 8th. So on that day, the senators should make the decision after due consultation, after making sure that they look at the results. The results are saying something, So give young people in the Senate good responsibility.
Do you think that all of those considerations would be made, and then if those were made, don't you think that it will put some other regions, at a disadvantage, sort of? So, for instance, what I'm trying to say is, if you look at the northwestern part of the country, it could be argued that your candidate got majority of his votes from the northwestern part of the country. And, right now as it is, there is no representation from that region, from that part of the country from the structure that we have so far. The vice president is from the northeast. The president himself, the president-elect himself, is from the southwest and all that. The northwest, what then happens?
Again, like I said, due consultation is important, right? Reward system is very important. If you look at it, I'm from the North Central. The North Central gave the APC the most states in Nigeria, tallied with the Southwest. So if you look at it, North Central should be rewarded. But you have to look at it on the grander scale. You have to look at it, okay, where didn't we perform first? Where did we do wrong first? Those are the areas that you should look at tackling. Then once you tackle those ones, areas like North Central, if you're given, say, maybe one position to the Southeast that is higher because the Southeast don't feel carried along, give maybe 3, 4, 5 positions to the North Central to show that we appreciate the effort of the North Central. Likewise, the Northwest, to show that the Northwest, we appreciate the numbers. I believe we won only 2 states in the Northwest and 1 state in the Northeast, right? So that also should be reflected. Give a position, a good position, or a few positions to match, but through due consultation.
So Mustafa, are you saying that initially what I thought I heard from you was the areas where you didn't do well, you look at bringing those people on board and making them feel that they belong.
Yes.
So that will mean that you're not going to say, because these people gave me more votes, I'm going to reward them.
No,
that's not what the party will do.
No, what I'm trying to say is that, right, the people who gave you more votes, give them more positions, right? The people who didn't give you as many votes, give them 1 or 2 positions that are very high. That shows that you do value them. Do you understand? Come more on board. We're not going to reward, a zone that didn't vote for us. That doesn't make sense, because how about all the people that work for you?
Yes,
give them a position that you can carry them along.
If I understand what you're trying to say, you're trying to talk about having a kind of a united kind of a structure. And to be specific, I assume you are talking about the southeastern part of the country.
Yes.
To perhaps have the highest office in the Senate, maybe the Senate president and the rest of them. That's what I assume. Just by way of trying to say, oh, you matter, you are important. in the political arrangements and the structure and the end of that. But, some would say, why does that matter now? I mean, yeah, from the word go, it wasn't it wasn't something that was considered by the APC, according to some arguments.
No, I don't think so. We had senators from the APC, we had House of Reps, we still have governors from the APC in the Southeast. But you can see that the Southeast doesn't feel part of the APC project. We need everybody to understand that, yes, we've made mistakes. Yes, we are not perfect. Yes, we've had teething issues, coming in. But this new set of leadership has what it takes to deliver a booming economy, to deliver booming infrastructure. We have a national infrastructure plan, just like Eisenhower did in the US, that built all the infrastructure connecting the US today, all the highways, the I-90s, everything was built by one president. This president is coming with a national infrastructure plan to build brand new highways connecting the entire Nigeria. This is a Nigerian project. You cannot afford, because that's why I use North Central. Kogi, for example, we delivered in Kogi. In my polling unit, I delivered in my polling unit. But I know that it's not just about me. I know that in order for us to have a complete Nigerian spread, pan-Nigeria, the Nigeria that we want, even those that don't vote for you, show them that they are part of the project. Not that because you didn't vote for me, 0 for you. Guess what will happen the next time? They'll still not vote for you. And any other person that is disenfranchised from your government would join that group.
Isn't it why we find ourselves in the mess that we are in now, in Nigeria? The winner takes it all. Usually, that has been the practice, all along. So why should anybody expect that the APC would do any differently? I mean, what you are saying now might be your conviction, might be what you think should be the ideal situation, right? But we haven't seen that in the past,
but we've seen
from
that
their political arrangements.
We've seen that with these two leaders. I believe 100% in Asiwaju and Kashim Shettima. Both of them have shown, their track record shows, the first thing the president-elect did was stretch an olive branch to Atiku of the PDP, to Peter Obi of the Labour Party, and to Kwankwaso of the NNPP. The Nigerian project requires all of us. It does not, APC cannot do it by itself. The people in APC are not up to 200 million. You require 200 million Nigerians to re-engineer their thinking,
Mustafa,
to re-engineer their economy, to move the country forward.
I hear you. I hear you say that the president-elect and his vice will want to bring the people on board. But then I'm thinking about the members of the APC. I do remember that following the primaries of the APC, there were lots of grievances by members of the party who felt they didn't get what they should have gotten, and some of them were aggrieved. They were angry at the party. Absolutely. Now we still have that. That problem is still there.
Yes, we do.
So how is there a mechanism in place to ensure that while the president-elect and his vice may be thinking of bringing people on board, the Nigerians on board, the people in the party will still feel entitled? Oh, I should get this.
I'll give you a typical example. When I was at the victory speech, the celebration that we had when the president-elect was declared the winner, and what he spoke about there was the Zamfara example. In Zamfara, when we had a caretaker committee, the caretaker committee brought in a PDP governor to the APC, then disenfranchised those in the APC. There was huge issues in Zamfara, publicized all over the place. But yet, you have seen that the group, Senator-elect now, Abdul Aziz Yari's group, and Mutawale's group, His Excellency Mutawale's group, have all put their swords down and are all working hand in hand. That is an example of His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's intervention in Zamfara. That is just a small example. I was at the primaries. That was a free and fair primaries. Every single delegate went by themselves, casted their vote, placed it in their box, and those votes were counted. Now, there's nothing you can do if somebody feels I should have
talking
won.
about the presidential primaries.
The presidential
No, but then
primaries.
you do know that there were grievances from the governorship primaries, the reps, the primaries.
I'm talking, you see, for leadership, the country takes the direction of the leader. If the leader is strict, if the leader is just, or everybody will adjust. If the leader is lackadaisical, everybody will take advantage of power, because power does not allow for vacuum. A lot of the people that felt that their candidate should not or should have emerged and were disenfranchised, some of them were in the presidency. And Mr. President doesn't really, Mr. President, when he gives you something to do, he leaves you to do the job. He leaves you to, because he believes that, you know, between you and God, you should be able to do the right thing. But unfortunately, some Nigerians walk hand in hand with the devil. So if you allow those kind of people, you would have what just happened, where we cancelled an entire currency to stop members of our own party from winning an election. We all know that that's what happened. So if you allow vacuum, you would have people with nefarious thoughts, people who don't feel that they should, you know, allow others who have genuinely won their election to emerge. So that has what has happened. But I believe that our new president, the president-elect, is more skilled, understands, is more of a politician than Mr. President. That is fact. Understands the need to bring everybody out. This project, without bringing people along, those aggrieved and those outside, we're not going to succeed.
All right, well, let's not forget that the results of the election is still being contested, and whether or not the olive branch you talked about extended by the president-elect will be accepted by those who feel aggrieved by the whole process and the rest of them. But if they, you know, disagree to take the olive branch, how would governance be?
First of all, there's a genuine mechanism in place for those who feel aggrieved. You have the tribunal, you have the appeal, you have the Supreme Court. We all know from, or we perceive from the body language of those who feel aggrieved, that they will pursue their, you know, grievances to the very end, which is fine. We have no issues about that. But the business of governance must continue. So when an olive branch is stretched to you, if you don't take it, that position will be given to someone else, because it must be occupied, and occupied by the right people in order for the job of building a better Nigeria to take place. So what we are encouraging those, especially young people, I believe that this government will be the best government for young people. There would be a lot of people that will be brought on board. Young people did not feel part of the APC. I'm a young person in the APC, and many people have asked me, what are you doing here? Why don't you come with other young people? But I tell them the same thing. We cannot all be on the outside. You cannot sweep the house from the outside. You must be inside. You must work. Some people must remain in the PDP. Some people must remain in Labour. Some of us must be in APC to make sure that the problems, the issues facing Nigeria, the issues facing you, these are young faces here. We know the struggle and the challenges in this country.
Talking about young people, bringing them aboard and all of that, and talking about the leadership of the National Assembly, the Senate, for instance, is the APC considering retaining the ranking formula? Because, I mean, if you're talking of ranking, the young people may not necessarily be part of it.
You know, if you look at it, you just mentioned a scenario where a brand new senator came in and became Senate president. So there has been precedents before that newbies would come in and have top positions. So it is possible to balance this. There are so many committees. There are so many committees in the Senate and in the House of Representatives that are very, very good committees. It shows that you value someone if you give them this committee. So what I am suggesting to the Senate, who are our leaders, the senators-elect, is that don't just use that formula alone. It's a very good formula, because if you've been there twice or three times and someone is just coming in, you feel, hey, I've been here for a while, I know the ropes, I'd do a better job. Can be true in most circumstances. But you have situation where people come in for the first time, and because they bring new energy, new blood, new ideas, new skills into the foray, they perform outstandingly well.
All right, so quickly, let's talk about the governorship in a few minutes, what, a minute or two.
All right.
From going by the outcome of the presidential election, in many states, it seems that there's a massive rejection of the APC. What do you see happening in the governorship election?
To be honest, I think we will lose a couple of states, just a few. I don't think we will lose.
Is it the same states you lost during the presidential?
Maybe a few of them, but not all of them. The states we lost in the presidential election had many dynamics, you know, except maybe we don't want to be honest with ourselves or straightforward. But if you look at the three main groups of people that were, say, maybe obedience, let's take the new player into the game. First of all, you had, in no particular order, you had a lot of young people, the NSAS, you know, people, a lot of people who don't feel, hey, these two parties know that we control, we are the heartbeat of Nigeria. You had that group. You had Southeast who felt, hey, we've not been part of the APC, and now PDP are giving us another northern candidate, so no way, we don't want. You had that group, and then you had northern Christians who felt, hey, nobody is looking at us, and we are part of this project. When you look at the north, I believe we've had this conversation here previously. Northern Christians didn't feel that, you know, APC was saying that we could, or they could give us what we wanted. But that was never the case.
Mustafa, you painted three scenarios. Isn't there a group of people that voted based on performance?
Yeah, I'm saying majority. You have the off ones that just felt, hey, APC, PDP is not for me. You know, I'd rather even do that. And then there were those in Kano who felt, hey, our leader is Kwankwaso, I would give him a vote. So you have those dynamics. But these were the three major components of the obedience. So now these dynamics have changed in the states. So in these states, some of these governors will be returned, while some will not be returned.
All right, thank you so much for your honest view, actually, honest opinion, being a member of the APC and still saying this. Well, thank you for joining us on Daybreak and sharing your perspectives with us. We appreciate it. Well, that's our show for today. In case you've missed, you can always catch us across all social media platforms and also on our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba Ilya. Let's do this again tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Stella Yaji. For now, do have a very pleasant day.